The sound of that tractor means it's time for us to go to work. Welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast, powered by Hoopie Grading Company. My name is Brandon Lindsay, and I am your host. So we've all heard the old saying, if you build it, they will come. But only a grading contractor fully understands what all must happen before you can actually build it. The clearing, the grading, the erosion control, the stabilizing, the paving, etc. And there are few companies that have done that as long and as well in South Carolina as our guest today. What started as a land clearing and grading company in 1972 is close to celebrating its 50th anniversary as a much larger company that can now perform much more than just landscaping. C.R. Jackson is based out of Columbia, South Carolina. They own 6 asphalt plants across South Carolina. They continue to grow, and we'll talk about that more later. It's actually, the company's much larger than that now, but its paving operations are just a small part of what they actually do. Their portfolio includes award-winning design-build projects, land clearing and grading, water and sewer installation with storm drainage, and roadway construction. We are honored to have the Jackson family with us today on the Give Us the Dirt podcast to talk about the last 50 years and hopefully the next 50 years too. Jackson's, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to have you guys.
I'm going to participate in a part of those next 50.
You are?
Yeah, I hope.
I don't know how you make it without it. They're gonna have you. So
they're ready.
It is great to have you. Mr. Jackson, I have to tell you that we've been doing this podcast now for a while. We started last year. I've had several episodes. I think this is like number 16. And I don't know that my wife has listened to one episode of this yet. She has no desire to hear me talk, and she hears enough of it when I get home. But when I told her I was recording today and that you were going to be our guest, she said, "Oh my gosh, Mr. Jackson, I want to hear that. I can't wait to hear it. Actually, can I come watch?" So not only did she want to hear it, she wanted to be here to see you. So I wanted you to know that I can't get her to listen to this thing. I can't get her to come here, but you can. That's how much she thinks about you.
I've always had a good way with Elizabeth. She's one sweet lady.
She is. We our families have known each other for a while. When I was at Martin Marietta, I got a chance to get to know you guys. Martin Marietta sent me to Columbia, South Carolina with a bunch of goals that I was supposed to achieve, but I added one when I got down there, and that goal was to get adopted by the Jackson family. And I didn't pull that off. I tried really hard, but that was a goal of mine. I was trying to become part of the family.
Well, I've been claiming you as a dependent.
Well, good. I don't know how far that gets me, but it's good. We're brothers now.
That's right.
Hey, I want to start. We usually do this by saying, "Hey, how would your spouse introduce you to a bunch of people that have never met you? What would she say about you?" But we're not going to do that today because you got 2 people here that get to talk about you all the time. And so I want to hear, Steve and Elizabeth, how do you guys introduce your dad to someone that's never met him before? Steve, why don't you kick us off?
Well, generally we don't have to introduce him because most folks know who he is in the circles that we run in. But we're talk about him being our father and our business partner and mentor, and just enjoy being around him, watching what he does and how he does it, and try to emulate him best we can.
What a great compliment. I wish my kids would say that about me. Elizabeth, how do you introduce your dad?
I would agree with Stephen. We typically don't have to because he takes care of that, and he works a room better than anybody I've ever seen, getting to know everybody and speaking to everybody and making them feel comfortable and telling a joke. And so my friends love it when I come home with Richardisms and get to tell them because they find him very charming. And so
I bet your house was the place to be growing up. Like, everybody loved being over there and hanging out at the Jackson house.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. Mr. Jackson, we're gonna unpack your story a little bit today. I'm fascinated. I know a little bit about it, but I can't wait to find out more today. And I want to start at the beginning. We know you started the company in 1972, but when did construction life actually start for you?
Brandon, I think to best set that up, I'd have to kind of tell you how it evolved and where I came from, and a quick record of how I got where I am today, which still baffles me. But I was born in a mill village over in Bemis, Tennessee, which is about halfway between Nashville and Memphis. And my daddy worked in the cotton mill for 44 years. And one of the teaching points of those many years that have stood out to me today, I never heard him complain about his job or complain about his employer. And that's a bit of my formative years. That's the example it was set for me by my dad. But
so he introduced you. I mean, you looked up to him. Did you spend a lot of time? Did you ever go over to the mill and hang out with him when he was working?
They wouldn't let us in the mill. I went in there after I was 12 years old, and I said, "This is tough work." He came home every day with his overalls wet down to his ankles. And of course, that's partly the humidity they sprayed in the mill. But, you know, in Bemis, I thought we were the empire of the textile industry. I didn't know anything about South Carolina and what a dominant position they had in textile. So there's more people probably going to hear us now on this podcast today that knows what a mill village is. And that I was literally born in the house. And I don't know exactly how I got into construction, but I had my mother's dad, Boss Starp. I don't know where the word boss came from, but it was Samuel Evan Starp, and everybody called him Boss. And I would follow him everywhere he went. And he was a farmer, and I didn't realize what he was back then because I didn't know what it was, but he was a bit of an entrepreneur too, and we'd go off and buy fruit and buy peaches and buy apples or wherever, watermelons, and he had a fruit stand. He'd sell those, and I watched him work with customers. And my favorite thing that I gained from him was in Trenton, Tennessee, where he lived, they had First Monday. First Monday was a trade day, in that town of Trenton, like a lot of the old southern towns, the courthouse was the center, and you could drive around the courthouse, and everybody'd come into town and back up to the curb with their pickup truck or their trunk of their car, and they had what all junk they wanted to get rid of. So it was really as a predecessor to the flea market,
or Facebook Marketplace.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know about Facebook. The Devil's Workshop's what I call Facebook. So I watched him trade, and I learned to trade a little bit, and I picked up on the relationships with people and all of that. Granddaddy was just a special old fella, and set a great example for me.
So a lot of kids would see their dad come home after a hard day's work at the mill and being sweaty and dirty and everything, and they would say, "I want no part of that. Like, I'm running the opposite direction. Whatever you just did all day long, Pops, I don't want to do that." But you saw him, and you saw Boss, which you got to be a tough dude if your nickname is Boss. By the way, that's pretty cool. And you see them, and you see this life that they've built, and you say, "All right, that fits for me. I like that." And then in 1972, did you start the company? Was this your idea?
Well, sort of. I never ever had an original idea. I just listened to other people sometimes. But I developed an interest after I got out of college. I graduated from the University of Tennessee, and it was during Vietnam, so I dodged a draft by joining the Marine Corps, and I served my time in the Marine Corps, and I came to Charlotte, went to work for R.H. Bully, a pillar of the community here in the old days. Mr. Oliver Rowe was a great role model for me, and I didn't work there very long, but had a neighbor that kept talking about getting into business. Well, I'd never thought about getting into business. You know, everybody was working somewhere, aunts, uncles, and all that. And so he kept on, and I decided one day we'd go check out. He came home with the idea of getting in the landscaping and grading business, or I guess it was just a landscaping business. So we piled in the car, and I brought my buddy Burley Campbell with me, and he was a fraternity brother at Tennessee, and he helped me get the job with Bulleney. So we rode around, stopping at garden centers and everything. Well, you know, we weren't thinking too much. Saturday's a pretty busy day at a garden center. We didn't get much attention. We came back to the house, and I got in the Yellow Pages and looked up, and I saw M.A. Stewart Landscaping and Grading out on Rocky Creek Road near the Speedway. And I just called the number, and his wife, Kat, answered and told her what we want to do. We want to talk to somebody about getting in business, and wondered if her husband would talk to us. She said, "Yeah, Mark will be back here in just a little bit. You boys come on over here. He'd love to talk to you." So we did that, and the neighbor that came up with the idea of getting in business wasn't too interested, so he dropped out pretty quick. Burley and I we'd go Saturdays and ride around.
I figured he dropped out because he didn't make the name. Right. So when your name is C.R. Jackson, I was trying to figure out how did this partner fit into this thing. So he's out.
He dropped out. Burley stayed in, and so originally we were Campbell and Jackson.
Okay.
And Burley and I talked to Mark, and he said, I know a fella down in Columbia that needs somebody to do work like y'all can do, and I'll be willing to help you, and I'll send you down there. We said, well, we don't know how to do what you want us to do. He said, well, I'll send a man down there with you. Old Camp Steele will go down there with you, and he'll help you. And Mark helped us get a Ford tractor from Charlotte Ford Tractor on a rental purchase plan. We just paid $407 a month, and at the end of the year, that tractor belonged to us. And we had a pulverizer and a scraper, and he sold us a 951 cat loader and let us take over payments on a used GMC tandem dump truck. We got a road map, went to Columbia. I borrowed $1,500 on the insurance policy to help fund this thing, and I don't know what Burley borrowed, but we went to Columbia, presented ourselves to that man, and went to work.
How about that? That is unreal.
Flipping
through the yellow pages, called him up out of the blue, said, I need to get in a business. How can we do it? You leveraged everything you had to be able to pull it off. And you start this business. You start C.R. Jackson. And this was, I mean, you could tell, just knowing you, that entrepreneur spirit probably has been a part of your life since longer than you remember it being. It just, I can't see you being anything else other than that. But when you started in 1972, did you have a vision of what this thing was going to become? Or were you just thinking clearing and grading? We were just landscaping.
I had a vision every Friday, can we make payroll?
That was it. That was the extent
I
of it.
was pretty restricted to survival for a long time. And so after we got down there and started doing that, Burley decided it wasn't in his interest. He didn't enjoy it, so he left, so I was there by myself. And Burley and I are still friends today. He did real well in life otherwise, but I took it on from there, and that's when we changed the name to Jackson Construction, and later C.R. Jackson Incorporated. And we just went from there.
And so then the growth starts happening. And I want to talk about that too, because you see stories like this, and you see companies that have grown and had success, and some of them just do it organically, and you just grow a little bit. But you were a deal guy. Like you had a knack for being able to spot a deal and to see an opportunity out there and to figure out a way to make it work. Was that your strategy? Am I describing that right? Or how did you guys grow?
I think you're describing it right. I had very little vision. I had a lot of ambition, and I didn't mind pitching to the line. Didn't have a lot to lose. And then when I got a little bit to lose, I didn't quit pitching. I saw opportunities, and I went for them.
I would think that one of the things that Dad, when I reflect on his story and he shares these times, and I see it as I've worked here for the last 20 years, the thing that makes him distinctive as an entrepreneur is that he just never says no. I mean, he says no to certain deals, but if someone calls and wants to talk to him about this or that, or wants to meet with them, or invites them on a trip to make these connections and build these relationships, he's always says yes. And so those connections have opened doors for him to make acquisitions and to grow the company and to enter into new partnerships that proved fruitful for jobs and for going into business with other people. And it's just because he says yes. He wants to get to know people, and he wants to be out there.
That's where it starts. You gotta be in a position to have the relationships where people want to share opportunities with you. And then you got to have the ability to be able to evaluate the opportunity for what it's worth. Is this a good deal? Do I walk? Or is this something I can't walk away from? And I can't think of anybody that does that better than you've done it. And I think that replaces the vision piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of having this grandiose vision of where I want to go, you've kind of gone into this that I'm open to anything, right? I know who we are. I know what we're trying to do. And if an opportunity comes around that is going to make us better, we're open to it.
Yeah. It wasn't so much a business strategy, just his personality and how he engaged with other people.
So acquisitions and buying companies and going after different opportunities. Is there one acquisition that you say, that was a good one? That one right there was a turning point for our company. And had we not done that deal, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Well, there is that one, and it came, 15 years after we'd been in business, if I did my math correct here, because it happened in 1987. But the prelude to it and the setup and the reason for the opportunity came from the things that Elizabeth mentioned, relationships that I had developed. And one of them was early on, after we were grading for a while and having some success and working hard. Jimmy Ewart, a very dear friend of mine today, recommended me to talk to Billy Stewart, said Ashmore Brothers is needing a sub out here on this Michelin plant. So I talked to Billy, and we subbed the storm drainage. So I met the Ashmore Brothers, mostly just Billy. I don't even know that I met Russell or Richard, either one, but I met some of the boys, and they were grading the Michelin plant there in Lexington. And so the relationship developed from there, and then so Billy and I wound up going into the grading business in Greenville under Stuart Jackson. And we had a fine little outfit there, and we developed it and went along, and I made a good partner, and he's certainly one of the finest partners in the world. And so, we skip a couple of things getting out of sequence, but explaining the one, it would have been when Richard and Russell Ashmore walked into my office in early 1987. I don't know if I'd bond a job for them. During a big downturn in the early 80s, they had sold out to the Ballinger Group, and that wasn't going so good for Ballinger or Ashmore, either one, I don't think. But we didn't realize that they wanted to sell, and of course Richard and Russell wanted to buy, and they didn't have any way to do that. And so they came to me, and I said, yeah, I'd be very interested in that. So by March the 1st, we together owned Ashmore Brothers again, and we partnered for 17 or 18 years. And that was one that opened some doors for me. Prior to that, I guess the first acquisition we'd made was N.W. White and Company. Mr. White walked on the job on Christmas Eve. That's the kind of work we were doing then. We were at Owens Field job in Columbia. He came up on the job and said, Richard, said, I've been referred to you. I want to sell N.W. White and Company. I said, Mr. White, you and your daddy started that business in 1952. He said, yeah, but said, Daddy's gone and I want to sell it. And so we talked, and sometime in January I had bought N.W. White and Company.
Mr. Jackson, what is it that you think people, why, because you weren't the only option they had to go try to sell the company to. They could have gone to anybody. What is it about you that somebody said, I'm going to offer the company to Richard Jackson. I'm going to go see if he'll buy it. Why do you think they come to you? Did they think you just sitting around with a bunch of money that ready to spend it, or did they say, what was it that made them come to you first?
Really? I'd like to interject, because he's going to say, "All shucks."
He's going to be humble.
Yeah.
All right.
But Dad, from day one, was a man of integrity, and he said what he was going to do, and he did what he said he was going to do, and so people trusted him. That you just know. I mean, first time you met him, you knew that you could trust him, and I'd say that's the number one thing. He was there, and he was trustworthy, and folks wanted to be associated with people like that. And
they pour their heart and souls into creating these businesses, and if they're going to turn it over to someone else, they want to turn it over to someone that they know will carry it on in the same manner.
Who's working on Christmas Eve.
That's right. Yeah, that's going to do it the same way. That's going to pour their heart and soul into it.
That's right.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you answered that question, because you're right. He wouldn't have said that about himself.
He said, I'm just a old boy from a mill village in West Tennessee, but and he is that, but he's much more.
You're much more than that. Mr. Jackson, how proud does it make you that your daughter and your son have come into the business and wanted to be a part of this thing that you started back in 1972? And how excited does it make you feel that like the next 50 years could be under their leadership?
It's my premier accomplishment. I'm just thankful for the for the humbleness and the Christian attitude that they've come to the company with, and how they're not typical second generation people. Just the other day I had a significant advisor and person of mine come to me, and he said, I've worked with second generation companies a lot for my entire career. He said, Stephen and Elizabeth are the best prepared, and you're in the best shape, and y'all are doing it right.
I would agree with that 100%. You know, you see that second generation, and sometimes there's a sense of entitlement, a sense of, I don't have to work to get there. That is not the case with Stephen and Elizabeth. So, Elizabeth, I want to hear from you. Was the plan all along like, I'm getting into business, I'm going into construction?
Not at all.
It was not on the radar.
Not at all.
What were you going to do?
Well,
what was your dream?
Well, I didn't have many dreams. I didn't. When I graduated from Clemson, my dream was to find a job and to be, self-sufficient. And so I had a passion of working with maybe doing something in a church ministry kind of role, or doing something as off center of that, maybe working with elderly people at a nursing home or assisted living home or something like that. And so I went and pursued some opportunities in those fields and didn't get the jobs. And so Dad came to me at that point, probably worried that I was gonna not turn into a fully functioning adult. That's right. And so he said, maybe consider working in the company. And I said, well, something along the lines of bulldozers and trucks and asphalt, not really what excites me. And he put on that consummate salesman hat that he does wear so well. And he said, well, but you're applying for jobs that have you working with people. And turns out we work with a lot of people at the family business. And so maybe you're not energized about trucks and bulldozers, but maybe you could be about working with people. And it's hard to argue that point. So I looked at all the other job opportunities that had been offered to me, which were not there. So I said, well, this seems like a good place. And I said, well, Dad, if it's not working after about 6 months, I'd really like it to not be a negative thing, and I'll just go try to find something else. And he was pretty sure that I was going to fall in love with the people that we get the chance to work alongside, and he was right. And I've been there. This is my 21st year this year. So
wow, absolutely brilliant. And I love the fact that your dad, he hears you say no, and he's like, it's kind of a soft yes. Like, we're going to figure this out. But he is so right that he didn't need you to know how to run a bulldozer. Right. He didn't need you to know how
That's a good thing.
Yeah, he needed you to come help out with the people component of it. And right. And he identified you had a gift of being able to you had compassion, you had authenticity about you, you had character traits that people just connected with you, and you could help get people in the right seats. You could help identify their strengths and organize the team. So that's brilliant on your part, Mr. Jackson, to be able to get her in there.
Yeah,
but
he had a vision that I didn't see that.
He knew you in a different way than most people did. So how far into it when you said, okay, this is going to stick? I'm in construction now.
I would say, it wasn't glamorous. I wasn't doing anything. I was, doing utility locates for our jobs and helping with payroll and nothing too glamorous. But as soon as I got in there, what I enjoy about our job still to this day is the people that we, work alongside and the families that we get to be a part of. So, right away I knew that I enjoyed that and that I wanted to be a part of it.
Let me ask you this, and I'm just thinking about it. What was the reception to you coming into the business? Did you have because there are a few things to overcome there. Number one, you're the boss's daughter. Mm-hmm. Number two, you're a female in a construction industry, very heavily male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. Did you have a lot to overcome there, and how did you do that?
There was little to no fanfare to my entry into the company, but we had our senior estimator that just retired last year after 25 years was a female, Karen Jackson, not related to us, but she was there, and I was working on the side of the building with her. So I knew obviously construction was typically more males, but I didn't feel like an island because Karen was there, and we have, we just have so many people that are just excited and about Dad, and so I think the goodwill that he built up over the years, they were willing to give me and Stephen a shot, and both our dad and our mom instilled in us a pretty strong work ethic, and to not think you were anything besides just a member of the team. And so both of us just put on our shoes and went to work and did whatever was asked of us. So there wasn't any sort of, treat me different. Somebody told me a long time ago, don't call your dad at work, call him Richard, to make sure you're not, distinguishing yourself.
Did you call him Richard at the office?
I do call him Richard at the office.
Yeah, we both do. A goal of mine has always been for people to say, "Oh, I didn't know you were Richard's son." I feel like if that's their response to me, that means I'm doing my job correctly. So
how about that? That actually makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Well, maybe, and I get that. They gave you a shot because they trusted Mr. Jackson here. I still I'm not calling you Richard. They can, but I'm not. They gave you a shot because they trusted him and they valued his leadership. But at some point, you got that from them on your own, and you started building that trust and respect. So, talk to me about it. What does it look like today? Right? We know what it started out as. Mm-hmm. What does C.R. Jackson look like today?
So we've got. Dad didn't get into it about Satterfield Construction, but that was a company that C.R. Jackson acquired in the mid-'90s. And so between Jackson and Satterfield, we operate 11 asphalt plants across the state from Myrtle Beach all the way over to Augusta. So that's about, between those two companies, that's about 350 employees.
Wow.
And then with N.W. White, which is our trucking company, and how many trucks did Mr. White own when you purchased him?
He had 6 and I had 6.
So now there's over 300 trucks between triaxles and tractor trailers at N.W. White and 7 locations around the state, and that's another 300 and so number of people working with us. And so the footprint's gotten a bit bigger than it was when Dad moved down to Columbia. So.
Wow, that's impressive. So 650 employees, 11 asphalt plants, all over the state of South Carolina.
Across the middle part, not in the upstate and not down in the Charleston area, but down near Beaufort.
We'd like our friends in Charleston and Greenville to know that we do not pay in the Charleston or Greenville market.
You don't?
Okay. We do not.
Just getting that out there.
I think we probably need to leave that out.
Just getting that out there. Well, so look, that's a big company. 650 employees, 11 asphalt plants, all the projects that you guys do. That's a big job.
For sure.
And so, and you're kind of, you guys are running that now. So what is your biggest challenge? What is the biggest focus for you and your team right now?
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest focus for Stephen and I is just to recognize and every day be aware of the blessing that the Lord has given us, that Richard has given to us, to be a part of it, and to not take that for granted, to never take that blessing and say, how can it benefit me, but how can we leverage that for the 650 people who represent a lot of families? How can we make the right decisions for those folks that are dependent on us? And so that genuinely is what I think about when I go into work, is how we can be the best leaders that we can be, and keep that, Dad, his partners, Sean Walker is our uncle, and he was there since, day 2?
One.
Day one. I thought it was day 2. I thought you fired him on day 1.
Might have been day 2.
Right. And Sean and Ben Whetstone and Bruce Sproles, they laid a great foundation of the company, and they our focus is to try to retain and keep all that stuff that they've paved out, as far as a sense of family, a sense of generosity and appreciation, and try to keep that intact and grow, but not to lose that sense that we have. But most of my time is spent on employee development stuff and working with the team that comes up with, our benefits and the ways that we can provide great resources for the people that are on our team. So
giving them the tools and the resources they need to be successful.
That's right.
Being here today has raised this bar on what you got to have to get people. Hoopah is overly impressive. I am knocked out.
Well, thank you. And, it's nothing different than what you guys are doing. You guys have recognized that if you're going to be successful and you're going to achieve your goals, it's all about the people. Mm-hmm. It's all about investing in the people. And I'm sitting here listening to Elizabeth talk, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes as a business owner, but also as a dad, and thinking how proud you must be right now to hear her say, number one, these two recognize that the position they're in and what they've been given is a blessing. But they also recognize that blessing is not intended for their enjoyment alone. That blessing is meant to be shared with the people that make the 650 people that make up this company. And so, Stephen, I want to turn to you a little bit now too, because, man, this is fun. I got to imagine this is kind of fun position for you, but it also feel like it could be heavy.
I want to ask Stephen to share with the people what he said one time when his buddies from Virginia Tech showed up and asked him, Stephen said, "What are you doing for the company?"
Oh, we got to hear that. What was that?
I don't really remember that story, but I'm assuming it's something along the lines that indicate that I work for Elizabeth. So
I can tell you what he said.
What'd he say?
He said, me and Dad mostly suck up to Elizabeth trying to hold on to a paycheck.
Perfect. Hey, at least you recognize it.
That's right.
You know who's really in charge.
Man knows his place.
So tell me, what was your aha moment? When did you know it all along? Did you?
Yeah, I knew it all along. I was telling Elizabeth and Dad on the way up here, I was 7 years old. We lived in the house in front of the shop there, and he had just bought N.W. White, and all 6 trucks, and the 6 of his were a formidable fleet to a 7-year-old. And one of my friends said, "Who owns all those dump trucks?" I said, "Well, my daddy does." He said, "Well, your daddy must have a lot of money." I said, "Well, he did, and then he bought all those dump trucks." So, wise words from the mouth of babes. But I remember standing out there. I love the smell of fresh dirt, the smell of diesel exhaust. I never went to a job fair at Virginia Tech. I never looked anywhere other than the dirt business. I worked for Ashmore Brothers and worked for Satterfield and went in there and did exactly what I said. I tried to make sure that nobody knew my last name. I was just Stephen from Lexington, and just enjoyed the people, the work, looking back and producing something, being able to say, "Yep," and my kids get tired of listening. "Yep, we graded that subdivision. Yeah, I remember when we were grading that subdivision. I was doing this. I was doing that." They probably know them better than I do. So
you just slipped in under the radar. You didn't come in and make a big splash and say, "Hey, 2.0's in town."
That's right.
And
that was actually my GPA. So,
well, so I want to talk about it too. You know, your dad's built this company up, and all these acquisitions and things that are taking place. But along the way, he's created this culture of pride. For the employees, something that they enjoy being a part of this team, and they stick around. You guys, you go to the website and you see that. That's a common theme through everything that you have going on, that you've got great people that love their jobs and they stay there. So obviously that's because of the culture that's being created. How do you make sure that you continue that culture and that you are able to carry that on so that they continue wanting to stick around for the next 50 years?
Well, we want to follow Dad's example of associating with the right kind of people. Elizabeth and I, when we speak to folks that we're considering employing, say that if you have humility and integrity and work ethic, we can figure this out together. And we've got a magnificent team. Gene Sarton is the president of Satterfield Construction. He's been with the company for 20. Has it been 20 years? Yeah. And then Chad Andrews, president of N.W. White. He's been with the company over 17 years. Our newest senior leader is Bill Tomlinson, who's been here since 2006. But they all
16.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Sure, we can fix that.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, I can't remember the dates.
But yeah, it's people, and so we just want to build on that foundation that he and Ben and Sean and Bruce built.
I think that's wise. I think you've got a set of plans that you know work.
Yes, sir.
And so why try to change it up too much? Go with that. Stephen, let me ask you this: do you ever, is there pressure that comes along with this? I mean, do you ever feel the weight of trying to carry on this thing, your dad's legacy, and carrying this company? Is that heavy?
Oh, absolutely. Elizabeth and I thought I knew tired when I worked driving lowboys and paving and laying pipe, but the mental fatigue that comes from just the responsibility that 650 people are counting on us to not mess this up is very daunting. And without our faith, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's that transcends grading and paving. We have a higher purpose on this earth, and investing in those people and doing the best we can to take care of them, and in turn, we'll all take care of each other. So it's about the team, and none of us is better than all of us, and that's our mantra. Whenever we have a meeting, we get together. everybody has a voice. You might not make the final decision, but everybody at our family companies has a voice for the future of this company.
And that's the idea that we have such a strong group of people around us. It certainly is a lot of responsibility at the end of the day. It's our family's business, but we've got so many people committed to the same cause and that care and are moving in the same direction that we are, that the load does feel lighter because of the caliber of people on our management team, our leadership team, and on our crews and driving our trucks. We've just got quality people in every spot.
And I think that's what helps create some of that freedom. It is, it's always going to be heavy at the top, right? That's the role you're in. That's what you've been asked to do. But if you get the right people in the leadership positions and you allow them to lead, then you get some freedom from that. And I love the fact that both Elizabeth and Stephen, you guys, you don't refer to them as 650 employees, it's 650 families. Mm-hmm. And so you're constantly thinking about that, that it's not just taking care of those people, but it's make sure you take care of their families and that they've got opportunities. So I want to talk about this too, and then Mr. Jackson, I'm coming back to you because I want to get some gold out of you before we end this thing. Stephen and Elizabeth, both of you kind of chime in however you want to. So you've seen what's gotten you to almost 50 years. You've seen what's worked. That's not, even though you've got the foundation, you know the core values, you know what's made it work, it's not necessarily the same strategy that's going to get you to the next 50 years. That's going to look a little bit different. Have you guys thought about that? And what would you tell us to expect out of C.R. Jackson over the next, what can we look for the next 50 years?
Sure. I mean, have we thought about it just all the time? That's what spends most of what goes on in my brain is how can we scale this thing so that we can keep it going forward. And that we often say what Dad did, it's a product of his personality. It's a product of the timing in society that he was able to do that, and the marketplace and the industry that he started and grew our business doesn't exist anymore. And so we're going to have to be innovative and embrace technologies and utilize some things that we haven't had to do so in the past. And so that's what we're preparing for, is how can we embrace those things and get formalities and structures in place that give everybody an ability to succeed without losing that family feel and without losing the ability to say, you're a human and I'm a human and we're in this together. And we do have metrics and we do have, charts and stuff that we have to let be a part of our decision making. But we're not going to let that supersede the human component of it. And the things that Stephen and I talk about are, respecting people, appreciating people, rewarding people, and acting in a way that's humble and recognition of the situation that we're in. Those things don't go out of style. I mean, it might be that was something that attracted people to Dad in the 70s and brought them in on his ideas and his opportunities, and that's still going to be in style in 2035 because people need to feel respected and seen and valued. And so our core values, I don't think, are changing, but our marketplace is, the work that's available is, and the ways that we accomplish that with technology are shifting, and we have to adapt with that too.
It's even more important now. I would argue it's even more important because that next generation of construction workers, they're not going to come for the same reasons that Mr. Jackson came or you came. They're going to come because they want to feel purpose. Mm-hmm. They want to see something bigger than just a job. And so you're right. It's not growing the company. It's not just going and adding some new equipment to the yard. Everything's got to grow in the process. The systems, the benefits, the appreciation, all that's got to grow at the same time. So having to focus on that is a big job. Mm-hmm. Stephen, what about you? What do you think? Do you continue with the strategy of acquisition after acquisition, or does it look a little different?
It looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
We're not our father. We're not trying to even imagine that we could replicate what he's done. But we want to be open to good opportunities. We want to be nimble and ready to respond, whether that's growth or contraction or whatever it needs to be the best team that we can be. And so we just want to be respectful of our team and know when to make those calls and when to grow and when to circle the wagons and be ready to call on the team to sacrifice together to survive. Because right now things are good, but we all know that doesn't last good forever. So, but we're building a team that we put up against anybody. Dad has built a team, and we are continuing to build upon that team that we'd put up against anybody's team to survive whatever's coming our way. So
I think that's wise.
Yeah.
Neither one of you say, hey, there's a mark we're trying to hit. There's a certain size that we want to get to. There's a number of employees that we feel like we've arrived. That's not on the table. It's
no, sir.
Being the best you can.
You know, I listened to Brian when he did the first podcast, and he said that growth was never the goal. And that resonated with me because I don't believe that. I know that wasn't Dad's goal either. It never was about, I want to have this footprint or I want to have this revenue stream or this many employees. It was, I want to take advantage of the next opportunity the Lord gives me.
Yep.
and do it to the best of my ability. So, and Elizabeth and I are of one mind and one accord with that. And Dad has very graciously empowered us and put us in a position to be able to see if we can do that. So
that's great. All right, so now we're going to get into the part where we ask you to give us the dirt. And Mr. Jackson, this is going to be for you. You listen to all this, and you listen to Elizabeth and Stephen talk about their vision for the company and the team and what they want to. Knowing that you're closing in on the end of what is a great, successful, and very purposeful career. What excites you the most about what you've heard today and what this company and these two are going to do?
One of the exciting things today was you asking us to come here. That's what a great compliment that is, and I appreciate it, Brandon. And I enjoyed our friendship while you were in the Columbia area and your family. We even churched together.
Yes, we did.
And it's a challenge to wind down. I'm having no trouble stepping aside and allowing them and the team to run the place. Of course, Elizabeth probably don't want me to say this, but I never did know how to do it. I just knew how to get the people that knew how to do it. And I've got ultimate confidence in that team that's supporting them and it together. And, I've got less sunsets in front of me than I got behind me, but I got some. And strategically, I'm important sometimes, or have an opinion maybe. They might wish I wouldn't come in the room, but it's about a vision to continue what we've got. I'm very comfortable with it. They're up to that. Stephen and Elizabeth are a partnership together, and they've been gracious to allow me to hang around a little bit. And I look forward to guiding where I can and stepping back where I ought to.
Well, you've given them a great opportunity. Is there anything that gets you, that makes you nervous? Is there anything that you worry about?
I worry about America, and I worry about the workforce development, because that's the key to anything. It's about the people, and we've got to have the people to do this work. This work we do is not going to become robotic. It can't be subbed out. Yeah. And
I agree with you. And it sounds like, you guys have realized that already, and we hear that all the time. Contractors and construction companies saying it, we can't find people, but we can't sit back on that. Like we got to press into that, and we got to figure out, all right, we can't go find people. How do we grow people? How do we develop people? And how do we continue this thing ourselves? And I think you guys have figured that formula out. Usually we'll ask you before we close this thing up, what kind of advice could you give that young construction worker that's getting ready to get into the business, the one that's thinking about starting their own company like you did in 1972, and but you've got two people right here to your left and right that are listening to. And so what piece of advice would you give them about going into this and trying to build a career that's as fruitful and purposeful as the one that you've enjoyed?
My advice to them is it is about the people. You heard them say that. So they got that, and they'll stay with it, and our culture supports it, and they'll keep supporting our culture, as will our team. My advice to Stephen and Elizabeth, but my advice to everyone is gratitude. We got to have gratitude, we got to have humility, and we got to care about the team. And if you've got gratitude, humility, and care about the people, and the way you take care of those people is you treat them with respect, you treat them with appreciation, you trust them, and you reward them. And it's pretty simple. It's just those things you got to do, because that's what people deserve, and that's what people appreciate, and that's what they want. And they don't get enough of it from some places. They're going to get enough of it from us.
Wow. I got chills just to sit and listen to you say that. You know, you success stories and books about how to be successful. Rarely do you hear the secret to success is gratitude, humility, and focusing on people. And I really appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you living that out. I appreciate what you've done for our industry. And for me personally, like we, all three of us sitting here beside you have learned so much from you. And I'm sure we could spend weeks, months of people walking in and out of this room saying the same thing. And so thank you so much for what you've done for us personally, for this industry, and for coming today and getting behind the mic. I know that was not easy for you. Be honest, were you a little nervous coming in?
Well, I was nervous, but I wanted to perform up to the standards of the people that I've observed that did these podcasts previously. Y'all have had some really wonderful ones. And I would like to add one thing. Some time ago, I read an article in a business magazine by Philip Crow, a really successful business real estate man in Texas. And somebody asked him, said, Mr. Crow said, what's it all about? How'd you do this? And he said, it's about the 3 Ps. And he said, 3 Ps, what's that? He says, it's partnership, it's personality, and it's people. And I've never forgotten that I've been blessed with a humorous personality and a get-by position, but it's about the partnership, the personality, and the people.
It is. That's great. And you know, I would say you talk about your humor. You didn't even tell any jokes today. Like I got to bring you back for another episode there, because you could spend 30, 45 minutes just telling joke after joke. We may have to edit some of them after you tell them, but that would be enjoyable. We might have to do that.
You need to get Jimmy and Randy Snow and myself in here.
That's a combo, huh?
That would be a combo.
Mr. Jackson, thank you so much for joining us. Elizabeth, Stephen, thank you guys for coming and sharing with us today. We're excited to see what you guys do as leaders of C.R. Jackson. And I know all of your 650 employees and their families that are listening to this must be extremely proud of how you guys have represented the company here today. So thank you for joining us. It was great to have you on the Give Us the Dirt podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Give Us the Dirt. Our podcast is powered by Hoopa Grading Company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and produced by Well Run Media and Marketing. Visit our website at giveusthedirtpodcast.com and subscribe to this podcast on Apple and Google so you never miss an episode.